Now, this is quite a discovery. Fragments of a biblical scroll, along with other relics, have been found in desert caves in Israel.
Thanks to the dedication of archaeologists and other experts, humanity is blessed with centuries-old knowledge of its past. The discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls is no different, and proves how we remain intricately linked to our ancestors.
Many think is the greatest archaeological discovery in the 20th century.
How did these texts reach the modern world? What do they tell us about ancient Jewish society? And how do experts distinguish between authentic fragments versus highly intricate forgeries? History. The Dead Sea Scrolls were hidden in the Qumran caves along the banks of the vast Dead Sea near the Israeli-Jordanian border for over millennia. Discovered between 1947 and 1956, the scrolls were likely written between 250 BCE and 70 CE. This discovery is highly important and creates a deep connection for us to articulate ancient languages and the development of religion. The scrolls are a compilation of over 1,000 manuscripts that are comprised of over 15,000 separate fragments, so one can imagine that experts had a hard time piecing everything together. They are over 1,000 years older than any other known copies of the Hebrew Bible, and also contain the oldest known Bible manuscript in the world. Experts think these date back to the Second Temple period and show us the complex lives of ancient Jewish civilizations. The fragments are said to contain laws, prayers, and other documents that provide us with clues that point to the origin of Christianity and Rabbinic Judaism. Now that we have a basic understanding of the Dead Sea Scrolls and their significance, let's take a deeper look at their exciting discovery. Would you believe it was just an accident? Discovery. The scrolls were discovered in a series of 12 caves. Some consider the first discovery an accident, while others call it plain old luck. The first discovery was made by Bedouin shepherd Muhammad ed-Dib, his cousins Juma Muhammad, and Khalil Musa in 1946. The boys were going about their daily routine, grazing their animals in the area, when one of them started throwing rocks in one of the caves. While throwing the rocks, the boys heard a clinking sound in one of the caves, which prompted ed-Dib to take a look inside. Inside the cave, ed-Dib found several scrolls encased in clay pots, and took the scrolls back to his camp to show his family. Thankfully, none of the delicate scrolls were harmed or destroyed in the process. The Bedouins were unsure what to do with this discovery, and often showed people the scrolls, hoping to find answers to their questions. The tribe went to several antique dealers. Some called them useless, while others paid minimum amounts to take them off their hands. Still, they managed to intrigue some other people and lead them to the caves, due to which it is thought that some fragments might have been found and then lost forever in someone's private collections. The original scrolls continued to go from person to person until John C. Trevor of the American Schools of Oriental Research, ASOR, found similarities between the scrolls and the oldest biblical manuscript, Nash Papyrus, in 1947. It wasn't until 1948 and the beginning of the Arab-Israeli War that Millar Burrows, head of ASOR, announced to the world that the scrolls had been discovered. Why did they take so long to announce this? They may have waited so that they could cross-reference other texts to prove their authenticity further. But the truth is, we will never know. This accidental discovery prompted the archaeologist community to explore the surrounding areas as well, and many more scrolls were consequentially found. The scrolls were written in 3 different languages, Hebrew, Greek, and Aramaic, and they were written on materials such as parchment, papyrus, and copper. The scrolls were extremely fragile. Archaeologists ran the risk of disintegrating them to dust at the slightest bit of wrong exposure to the elements, so extreme care was nothing short of necessary in the process of extracting them. From 1947 to 2024, many other fragments and pieces have been discovered. However, we can only sometimes tell if they are real or fake. But before we explore the world of high-class forgeries, let's talk about the much-debated origins of the scrolls. Who were this wide-ranging text's original composers, and why do experts still argue over their origins? Highly debated origins. The discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls led to many debates among scholars. The origins of these scrolls have also been the subject of intense scholarly debate, with several competing theories emerging over the decades. The dominant theory, until recently, has been the Qumran-Essene hypothesis. Initially, it was proposed by Roland Guérin-Devaux and Yosef Tadeusz Milik. This theory suggested that the scrolls were written by the Essenes, a Jewish sect living in Qumran. Supporting evidence includes the similarity in initiation ceremonies described in the Community Rule and those mentioned by Flavius Josephus, a Jewish Roman historian. Josephus and the Community Rule also mention communal living and the sharing of property. Excavations at Qumran revealed inkwells and tables, indicating a scriptorium and Jewish ritual baths, mikvah, suggesting an observant Jewish community. Pliny the Elder, a geographer, described Essenes living near the Dead Sea's northwest shore, aligning with Qumran's location. A variation of this theory, the Qumran sectarian theory, indicates that the scrolls were produced by a Jewish group living in or near Qumran, without explicitly identifying them as Essenes. Lawrence H. Schiffman, for example, proposes that the community was led by Zadokite priests or Sadducees, supported by documents like the Miksat Ma'az HaTorah, which aligns with Sadducee purity laws. Another controversial theory is that some of the scrolls have Christian origins. Spanish Jesuit José O'Callaghan Martinez suggested in the 1960s that one of the fragments could be from the Gospel of Mark. This theory has faced substantial scrutiny but remains debated to date. Robert Eisenman further proposed that the scrolls describe early Christian communities and link figures like James the Just and Paul the Apostle to events recorded in the scrolls. Yet another different perspective is that the scrolls originated from Jews in Jerusalem who hid them in the Qumran caves while fleeing Roman forces in 70 CE. Karl Heinrich Rengstorff first proposed this idea, which was later expanded by Norman Golb, who argued that the scrolls came from multiple libraries in Jerusalem, not just the Temple Library. This theory is supported by the scrolls' diversity of thought and handwriting. Archaeologists like Yizhar Hirschfeld, Yitzhak Magen, and Yuval Peleg, who see Qumran as a Hasmonean fort reused later, also support non-Qumran origins. Why so much debate over such a simple question? Well, the origins of the Dead Sea Scrolls are heavily debated due to several factors. Their historical and religious significance is immense, offering crucial insights into Jewish life and spiritual practices during the Second Temple period. The scrolls' diverse content, which includes biblical manuscripts, sectarian writings, and apocalyptic works, suggests varied origins and purposes. Archaeological findings at Qumran support the Qumran-Essene theory, but the site's history and use could be more complex and better understood. Additionally, identifying the scrolls with specific Jewish sects or early Christian communities can have significant cultural and religious implications, influencing modern religious identities and beliefs. Scholarly disagreements arise from different interpretations of the same evidence, such as the initiation ceremonies or the purity laws, leading to varied conclusions among scholars, each supporting their own theories. It is also a touchy subject, as almost all of the 15,000 scrolls and scroll fragments are currently held in the Shrine of the Book at the Israel Museum in Jerusalem, and Jordanian and Palestinian authorities heavily dispute this decision. The decision is disputed on territorial, legal, and humanitarian grounds, as they were mostly discovered following the Jordanian annexation of the West Bank and were acquired by Israel after Jordan lost the 1967 Arab-Israeli War. Meanwhile, Israel's claims are based on historical and religious grounds, given their significance in Jewish history and the heritage of Judaism. Given the world's socio-political climate, it isn't surprising that the origins are still heavily debated among multiple communities. It seems highly unlikely that we will have a substantial answer soon. In light of this, we are forced to question whether the scrolls are historically significant or just the scribbles of a bygone era. What do the scrolls really reveal about our history? Historical significance of the scrolls. The Dead Sea Scrolls hold immense historical and religious significance, primarily due to their status as some of the oldest known copies of the Hebrew Bible. These ancient manuscripts provide invaluable insights into how biblical texts were transmitted across generations. The scrolls carry multiple sections from almost every book of the Hebrew Bible, with the notable exception of the Book of Esther. These sections are remarkably well preserved and exhibit notable differences from the Masoretic text, the traditional Hebrew version of the Jewish Bible. By analyzing these variations, scholars can trace the evolution of biblical texts, understanding how they were preserved and modified over time. Apart from biblical texts, the Dead Sea Scrolls also contain many other writings that show us the religious and social practices of the Jewish community living in Qumran. These include hymns, prayers, commentaries on religious texts, and legal documents, all of which provide a rich view into the beliefs and daily practices of the community during the Second Temple period, a time of significant religious activity and development. Following the most plausible theory of its origins, historians believe that the Qumran community consisted of Essenes, a Jewish religious group noted for their strict religious observance and communal lifestyle. Ancient historians like Josephus and Philo also mentioned that the Essenes in the scrolls offered a direct glimpse into their community life. The writings of these ancient historians urge modern historians to believe what is written in the scrolls and further prove their initial theories about the text in them. Among the notable religious texts in the Dead Sea Scrolls is the Community Rule, also known as the Manual of Discipline. This document outlines the regulations for community life, detailing how new members were admitted and how existing members should behave. It provides a detailed picture of the community's structure and ethical standards. Another significant text is the War Scroll, which depicts an ultimate battle between the forces of good and evil. This document reflects the community's eschatological beliefs and expectations of a final, divine battle. The War Scroll is also recognized for its detailed portrayal of the conflict and the strategies used for battle. The Hodayot, or Thanksgiving hymns, are another important set of texts within the Dead Sea Scrolls. These poems express thanks and praise to God, revealing the community's deep connection with religion and how spirituality was an important part of their daily lives. The discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls has profoundly impacted the study of early Judaism and the origins of Christianity by revealing the variety of religious thoughts and practices during that era. They help scholars understand the early stages of Jewish and Christian beliefs and the context in which these religions developed. The scrolls not only impact our understanding of religion, but also significantly affect our knowledge of the Hebrew language and its evolution. Since they also contain examples of Aramaic and Greek, this tells us that multiple languages were spoken in that area during that period. The interdisciplinary efforts in archaeology, paleography, the study of ancient writing, and textual criticism have been crucial in studying these texts. Archaeologists have uncovered not just the texts, but also the living sites near Qumran, providing insights into the daily lives of the community. Paleographers have studied the writing styles to determine the scrolls' age and origins. At the same time, textual critics have compared the scrolls to other ancient manuscripts to explore variations in the texts and attempt to reconstruct the original writings. The discovery of the Tel Dan inscription has provided further integral evidence for biblical histories that correlate with the findings present in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Found during archaeological digs in 1993 and 1994 at Tel Dan, located in northern Israel, this ancient artifact is carved onto a basalt stone and dates back to the 9th century BCE. Its historical importance is emphasized by its mention of the House of David, supporting the real-life existence of King David and his family's rule as outlined in the Hebrew Bible. The artifact was discovered in 3 pieces, forming a section of a larger monument known as a stele. This stele was initially set up by an Aramaean king, probably Hazael from Damascus, who recorded his victories over the kingdoms of Israel and Judah on it. The text is in Aramaic, detailing Hazael's defeat of the rulers of Israel and the House of David, highlighting the ongoing conflicts among these neighboring regions during that era. One of the key reasons this discovery is so important is that it provides the earliest non-religious mention of the House of David, offering solid proof of the historical presence of David's dynasty, which is mentioned in the Hebrew Bible. The phrase within the inscription that refers to the House of David reads, I killed Jehoram, son of Ahab, king of Israel, and I killed Ahaziah, son of Jehoram, king of the house of David. This part of the inscription is particularly significant for scholars as it supports the existence of a lineage related to King David, a central character in biblical traditions. The historical setting of the inscription is also significant. In the 9th century BCE, the kingdoms of Israel and Judah frequently interacted with their neighbors, including Aram Damascus, in peaceful and hostile ways. The Tel Dan inscription offers a glimpse into these military and political tensions, enriching our understanding of the relationships between these ancient kingdoms. The language and script in which the Tel Dan inscription is written have been extensively analyzed. Analyzing it has led to a better understanding of the Aramaic language and its historical development. The inscription uses the Old Aramaic script, prevalent in the region at the time, and closely related to the Phoenician script, which influenced many alphabetic writing systems in the ancient Near East. Since its discovery, the Tel Dan inscription has sparked debates among scholars about interpreting it and its broader impacts. While some have challenged the reference to the House of David as possibly being something else, most experts believe the inscription does indeed refer to David's dynasty, making it a valuable piece of historical evidence. The artifact is currently on display at the Israel Museum in Jerusalem, where it serves as a focal point for ongoing academic studies and has been featured in numerous scholarly articles and books. The importance of the inscription goes beyond just its historical and linguistic value. It also provides insights into the political and cultural dynamics of the ancient Near East. Apart from its historical significance, the context of the Tel Dan inscription helps in identifying the broader historical landscape of the 9th century BCE. In this period, the kingdoms of Israel and Judah were becoming prominent regional powers. Their dealings with neighboring entities like Aram Damascus were key in shaping the regional political and military landscape. Archaeological discoveries at Tel Dan and nearby sites offer more context for understanding the inscription. Excavations have uncovered a developed urban center with strong fortifications and public buildings, indicating that Tel Dan was a significant city in the northern kingdom of Israel, strategically located near the borders with Aram Damascus. The inscription mentions specific kings, such as Jehoram and Ahaziah of Israel and Judah. This helps to confirm and add detail to the biblical stories in the Dead Sea Scrolls, providing independent evidence of their reigns and the political happenings of their times. The Tel Dan inscription also plays a part in shedding light on the cultural and religious aspects of the era. The acknowledgement of the House of David by neighboring states suggests its importance not only in political and cultural realms, but also in the religious traditions of the time. Overall, the Tel Dan inscription adds to the context of the scrolls, and it remains a subject of active research and scholarly debate, contributing to our growing understanding of ancient history and the evolution of early writing systems. The Mesha Stele, also known as the Moabite stone, is another significant historical artifact that provides us with a deeper look into the history and culture of the ancient Near East. Yet another artifact that helps us understand the environment in which the scrolls were transcribed. Discovered in 1868 in Dibon, Jordan, this dark-colored basalt stone dates back to the 9th century BCE and carries an inscription by King Mesha of Moab. The text on the Mesha Stele is in Moabite, a language very similar to Hebrew. It contains 34 lines detailing King Mesha's military actions and his struggle to release Moab from the control of the Israelites. The inscription begins with Mesha introducing himself as the son of Chemosh, the main god of Moab, and explains how Chemosh supported his military actions. The historical information provided by the Mesha Stele is invaluable. It tells us about the relationship between Moab and Israel during the 9th century BCE. The Hebrew Bible mentions that the Israelites controlled the Moabites during King Omri's reign. The stele confirms this, but also celebrates Mesha's successful revolt against Israel, marking the liberation of Moab and the reconstruction of its cities. The stele's text recounts Mesha's military victories, reclaiming towns like Nebo and Horonaim from the Israelites and building projects, including constructing water reservoirs and strengthening urban defenses. This narrative also closely aligns with biblical accounts in the second book of Kings, which describes Moab's rebellion against Israel after King Ahab's death. Written in the Moabite language, which closely resembles biblical Hebrew, the inscription provides examples of early Semitic writing. It helps linguists understand the development of alphabetic scripts in the ancient Near East and create connections with other artifacts found in the area. The style of writing and the type of script used on the stele are similar to those found in other inscriptions from the same period, helping to date and contextualize it within the broader framework of ancient Near Eastern history. The Mesha Stele has also been valuable in understanding the religious practices and beliefs of the Moabites. The inscription frequently mentions Chemosh, the chief deity of Moab, indicating that King Mesha credited his victories to this god. This religious context is significant because it shows how intertwined religion and politics were in the ancient world. Mesha's inscription presents his military successes and construction projects as acts of righteousness, done with the support of and in gratitude to Chemosh. The Mesha Stele has proven to be another critical artifact for biblical archaeology. The stele provides independent proof of events mentioned in the Hebrew Bible, helping to verify and clarify the biblical narrative with external evidence. It offers us a unique Moabite perspective on historical events described from the Israelite viewpoint in the Bible and the scrolls, thus broadening our understanding of the historical context. The discovery and study of the Mesha Stele have also highlighted the importance of archaeological collaboration and the challenges faced in preserving ancient artifacts. The stele was broken into several pieces shortly after its discovery, with parts sold to different collectors. Thankfully, to the credit of historians, many of the pieces were later reassembled and are now housed in the Louvre Museum in Paris. Reconstructing the stele involved significant international collaboration, and we are grateful to everyone involved in its preservation, because if it wasn't for them, we would not have access to any of these beautiful artifacts. Although these discoveries and the collaboration between experts have given us some remarkable new information, this wasn't always the case. The scrolls have also had their fair share of controversies, with multiple people claiming to have some fragment or the other in their collection. Why would such an essential piece of history be hidden from the world for so long, that too on purpose? Why are there so many forgeries, and how do experts tell the difference? Controversies and conclusions. The Dead Sea Scrolls are undoubtedly one of the most significant archaeological finds of the 20th century. Like anything that creates big waves, they're bound to be a continued source of both enlightenment and controversy. Publication, control, and authenticity have been the primary causes of controversy, which continues to persist. Let's first talk about the controversies surrounding their publication. Initially, a small group of scholars controlled access to the scrolls, delaying their publication for decades. The longer, more complete scrolls were published soon after their discovery, with the writings from Cave 1 appearing in print between 1950 and 1956. Other scrolls from 8 additional caves were released in 1963, and the Psalms scroll from Cave 11 was published in 1965. Despite these early publications, most of the scrolls consisted of tiny, brittle fragments, which were published at a pace that caused many to question the publisher's intentions. The control over the scrolls was in the hands of an editorial committee led by John Strugnell. The restrictions imposed made it near impossible for many scholars and researchers to study the scrolls firsthand. Scholars like Norman Golb and publishers such as Herschel Shanks argued for broader access to these texts. The controversy continued until 1991, when the Biblical Archaeology Society published the facsimile edition of the Dead Sea Scrolls, following intervention by the Israeli government and the Israeli Antiquities Authority, IAA. That same year, Emanuel Tov was appointed chairman of the Dead Sea Scrolls Foundation, which successfully accelerated the publication process. You would think that would put an end to the controversies surrounding its publication, right? However, this was not the case. The publication of a complete set of facsimiles by the Biblical Archaeology Society in 1991 led to further legal disputes. Professor Elisha Qimron sued Herschel Shanks and others for copyright infringement over the unauthorized publication of his decipherment of one of the scrolls, MMT. The District Court of Jerusalem ruled in Qimron's favor, a decision upheld by the Supreme Court of Israel in 2000, drawing international criticism from copyright law scholars. It's ridiculous to think someone could not only claim copyright on these scrolls, but the fact that he won the case is even more disturbing. How can one man claim copyright over the collective history of humankind? It's as baffling as creating forgeries of such a prestigious document, yet even that has happened multiple times. The Dead Sea Scrolls have become more accessible in the digital age, and with that come new problems. The Leon Levy Dead Sea Scrolls Digital Library, launched in 2010 by the IAA and Google, provides high-resolution images of the scrolls online. This project aims to make the scrolls accessible to a global audience and preserve their content for future generations. However, the rise of digital access has not been without issues. Since 2002, numerous forgeries of Dead Sea Scroll fragments have surfaced on the black market. A prominent collector, the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C., discovered in 2020 that all 16 of their purported Dead Sea Scroll fragments were modern forgeries. Independent researchers found that these fragments, though made from ancient leather, were inked in modern times to resemble authentic scrolls. The Museum of the Bible's CEO, Harry Hargrave, acknowledged the institution's victimhood in this sophisticated fraud. Art fraud investigator Colette Law's team revealed that the forgeries involved ancient leather treated with modern techniques to mimic the appearance of genuine scrolls. These findings do not question the authenticity of the 100,000 genuine Dead Sea Scroll fragments, but now there is doubt about post-2002 fragments, many of which are now believed to be modern fakes. With this uptick in forgeries, scientists and experts have devised new ways to distinguish between real and fake documents. Detecting forgeries involves meticulous physical and chemical analyses. Law's team used advanced imaging and chemical techniques to uncover inconsistencies in the materials and methods used in the forgeries. Authentic Dead Sea Scrolls are typically made of tanned parchment, whereas the forgeries were often made of leather, treated to appear ancient. The forgers' modern inks and application techniques were also exposed under microscopic examination. The lack of authenticity for post-2002 fragments also raises concerns. Authentic Dead Sea Scrolls were legally acquired and traded before international laws restricted the sale of antiquities. The post-2002 fragments, however, emerged under questionable circumstances. They often lack clear ownership histories, suggesting they are either modern forgeries or illegally obtained. In conclusion, although these controversies raise concerns, they also serve as evidence of our continued interest in the scrolls. The controversies and forgeries further highlight the need for increased scholarly standards and legal frameworks to protect significant cultural heritage. As technology advances, so do the methods of preserving and studying these ancient texts, offering hope that future generations can continue to learn from and appreciate the Dead Sea Scrolls. It is the right of every one of us to have access to these significant findings, so that we may learn and make our conclusions about what they mean to us. What do you think is the real reason these scrolls were not shared with the public for so long? Do you think there should be more efforts made to help the public distinguish between real and fake artifacts? Who do you think benefits from these forgeries? Share your thoughts with us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel.